Hi everyone, it's me, Krylios, Team Racing Productions MC and producer. And our guests today are from Rorschach Theater. Please welcome.
Hi.
Hi there.
Hello, everyone. It is such a pleasure having you all here with me today. How's everyone doing today?
I think we're doing really well.
Love that. So, how we love to get things, started off here is just having everyone introduce themselves and letting everyone know what you do and a little bit about your background and experience. So, I'll start off with Kylos.
Okay. Hi, I'm Kylos Brannon. I am actually, my full-time day job is I'm a film professor at American University. And my interaction or my intersection with Rorschach Theaters, I'm a company member. And for the past almost 5 years, I think, I've been doing video for their stage productions, designing the screens or projections, and then also the online videos and pretty much just general media support.
Definitely. Thanks so much for that, Kylos. Jonelle.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Jonelle Walker. I'm a freelance playwright and academic. I recently got my PhD in theater and performance studies from the University of Maryland in December. Yes, so you can call me Dr. Walker if you're feeling fancy.
There you go.
I am a playwright working on this project, and I've been an associate producer and company member with Rorschach since 2015, which feels like a long time now. But I actually do all of my work from Texas, Houston, Texas, which is my hometown.
Awesome. And Shayla.
Hi there. My name is Shayla Roland. I am a theater producer and arts administrator. I'm also a former stage manager, which is kind of where I began my theater journey in the DC area. I was a producer out in the Twin Cities for a bit. And I intersect with Rorschach as, along with Jonelle and Kylos, as being a kind of creative producer of this year's project, which we're going to talk about a little bit. And I've had experience with Ginny McConnell-Frederick, who's one of the artistic directors of Rorschach, back when she was working at Source Festival in DC. I did that for a few years. I'm really excited to be here.
Awesome. Now, before we get into this year's project, I want to talk a little bit about Rorschach. So for anyone who's never been to a production at Rorschach, or they don't really know what it is, give us some insight as to what kind of stories people can expect at Rorschach Theater, and just give me a little background about Rorschach. So who's the best to do this? Is this Kylos?
I actually would defer to Jonelle as being
okay.
running company member in the room.
Yeah. Okay. At Rorschach, our motto is "We are what you see." We create installation-driven theater, which means that we're very design-driven. We make immersive theater experiences, whether that is more in the traditional sense of immersion, where you are a character in the story yourself, or you are just immersed in the world of a play. Our plays tend to be American magical realism, new American magical realism, and Washington Post has called this DC's leading fantasists. So I
love that.
That's actually news to me. I'm excited to learn that bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is very fantastic. That's so fantastic. I'm a playwright myself, and so hearing this and a fiction writer, and I write a lot of fantasy. So that's right up in my wheelhouse already. So it's exciting to get to chat with everyone today. Now let's get into this project. This year. How did it start? What's the tea? What's everything about it? Let's get into that. Shayla, if you could start. What's your role in the new project?
So kind of along with Jonelle and Kylos, I think my particular space of artistry is with kind of stage management. So people, I'm doing my best to try to maintain sort of how our meetings go and the notes and things like that. That's really where my artistry comes out. And then I get to, be in the presence of Jonelle and Kylos and our other creators who kind of have the story kind of aspect kind of driven in themselves. I think I would defer to, since Jonelle's Kylos, who's been a part of this, sort of project in year one and in year two. So probably do a better overview of kind of like where these things kind of started and kind of the general basis of what we call this year Chemical Exile.
Yes.
I could jump in on that. So the project's overall title is Psychogeographies. So that's the category of projects we've been doing, which ostensibly was kicked off in order to create a storytelling model and theatrical experience during the pandemic. That's really what kind of sparked the idea. So a Psychogeographies project engages with the urban landscape and hidden history of the city. So it's based around going to different locations throughout DC. And as you can see from the slide we have up here, you get a box every month that engages with that environment. It can have anything from maps to journal entries, to memos, to sometimes an audio or video component where you call in and you get a voicemail from a character. So the story unfolds over a number of months, and each month highlights a location. And built into that story and that experience in the location incorporates some history that you may or may not be aware of, or may or may not be real, depending on how the story is playing out. So this year's project is called Chemical Exile. The previous project, the first one, was called Distance Frequencies, and Jonelle and I both worked on that. And then just to mention that we have a wide variety of subscribers. Some are out of town, and especially during, we'll say, the peak of the pandemic, may not have wanted to venture to location around the city. So we create an at-home experience too, which is a YouTube link where I video the location, sort of like a walkthrough that matches up with the objects in the box. And sometimes there's some extra info you can get through the YouTube links. Sometimes not, sometimes yes, depending on what we're building in here and there. So it's a lot of building breadcrumbs that then ends in a live performance in the summer. And last year we did that at the Outside Parks at Walter Reed.
Oh, okay. Wonderful. Wonderful. I love that. So this is such an ambitious project, and something I personally have never seen done. So this is so amazing. I know we have a video here that I do want to share with our audience before we continue. So let me go ahead and do that now so that we can all get a piece of Chemical Exile. Here we go.
A renowned chemist boards a plane from Amsterdam to Washington. Returning to a world she thought she knew, she discovers nothing, and nowhere is what she expects. Explore unexpected locations across the DC area as Chemical Exile, the latest psychogeographies project from Rorschach, invites you into a complex story of families, forgotten histories, and uncharted frontiers of the mind. The psychogeographies experience begins when you receive a box in the mail with letters, drawings, souvenirs, photos, or even snacks, and a map. Set out on self-guided adventures to 7 different locations as each chapter unfolds from the artifacts in your box. The story culminates in a live performance this summer. Subscribers rave the Chemical Exile is a ray of light and illuminates parts of their city and its history that they never knew. Every city has its secrets. What will you uncover about DC? Subscribe today at RorschachTheater.com.
Fabulous, fabulous. One of the things that I loved about this is, one, I'm low-key a geography nerd, and before I moved to DC, I used to just look up everything about it before I moved here. And one of my favorite things is still uncovering new things I never knew before, uncovering new secrets. Speaking of which, I always thought I knew everything about how the DC streets were named, and I didn't know about the syllables, that after the A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then the next street named, it's 2 syllables. And then after 2 syllables, then it's 3 syllables as you go north. I did not know that. I didn't have a clue at all that that was a thing. So, and I just learned that yesterday. So there's always new secrets to learn about this city.
You know, I have been here 22 years. And once I learned that, it messes me up when I go to other cities.
Yeah.
Oh.
That's the work.
Yes, yes.
Anywhere else.
I love it. I love it. I love it. So this project, I'd love to know how did you come up with psychogeography? Like how did that come to be? As I think is the first time I'm hearing the term. I think from just knowing words, I can gather what it means. But who came up with that, and what was the thought process behind doing this sort of project?
I'll jump in on that. Well, as Kylos said, the initial impetus for the project was the pandemic. We wanted to do theater in the pandemic, and we just racked our brains for, okay, how can we bring people together, give context for this time, and give people a theatrical experience that they can do on their own and away from crowds outside. And so the first series of the show was just going to be a one-off initially. We called it Distance Frequencies. It was going to be a self-contained narrative. It was set to begin in the 1930s, and then it spread out to something massive that we could not have predicted. So when the show took off and we went from what we thought was going to be the most subscribers we would have, which was 60, all in DC, all of a sudden we had 500 subscribers, representing 12 states and 3 countries, and we had to figure out a way to keep this going. So our co-artistic directors, Jenny McConnell-Frederick and Randy Baker, got together and had to think about what to call this style of performance that we're now working on this series. And they settled on the term psychogeography, which comes from the philosopher Guy Debord, I believe. And it's about the idea that places have their own particular like emotional weight and their own layers of meaning, both to us as individuals and to the larger culture. And so the idea that our subscribers are these psychogeographers, as we call them now, exploring our interpretation as a creative team of a certain space, but also layering on their own memories and experiences of the place, is how we kind of settled on that very strange but fun term.
Yes, I love that. I'd love to know from each of you, what discoveries have you made, being a part of this project, going into its second year, being a part of this project. What new discoveries have you learned for yourself that you didn't know before, or what has being a part of this project taught you about maybe even yourself? I'll start with you, Shayla.
For me, this is my first year, so I think there was a little bit of intimidation coming into the second year with folks who kind of done it before. What this experience has really done for me is, I think everybody, like Jonelle was saying, a way to kind of do art. And I have moved kind of away from art in the last few years. And so I was really looking for a way to kind of get back and to be a part of a creative team, to meet some new people and to just try something new. I've loved Rorschach, some of their work for a while. And when I heard about the first year and how successful it was, I can't tell how excited I was for Rorschach. Like the fact that it had the reach that it did is just absolutely beautiful. And I was just really excited to be a part of it in some way. So for me, it's sort of what you were saying, the discoveries of DC, we also have some spaces that are in Virginia and Maryland. I was in Minnesota for a few years, so kind of coming back and kind of rediscovering the city in a lot of different ways has been really fun, and getting the chance to kind of go through, either some archives or kind of looking at some old newspapers and just seeing the different textures of the city and through different kind of perspectives, the different eyes of folks has been a lot of fun. And then putting it all together with this creative team and kind of watching them work has been a real joy. So I'm super proud to know these folks and to play a small part in this.
Certainly. Kylos, what about you? Any new discoveries working on this project?
Sure. I mean, I could say something very similar to what Shayla just said, in that, you know, I've gotten to learn some history and locations around DC that I probably just would not have run into or tripped upon on my own. You know, like I said, I'll be here. I just figured out 22 years as of this coming July.
Wow.
And I'm still discovering new places, right? Or you get sort of into habits and you don't branch out. And that's great. But honestly, what I've discovered is a completely new approach to storytelling. And as we went from last year to this year, especially now that we've done it once, and, you know, once you've got something, you go back and you don't make the same mistakes again, or you start attacking problems in different ways, this sort of unfolding for the audience through not just, you know, for me, I'm a pictures and moving image guy, but also through artifacts and design and objects or smells or tastes, and challenging ourselves to come up with, well, we've done this thing 3 times, you know, we approach that way of storytelling 3 times. How can we get the information across in this box this month in a different way? And what's a physical thing we can include that adds to it? And then I personally, though ostensibly I work in video, I also have a lot of experience in photography, Photoshop, and design. And it's allowed me to sort of flex those skills a little with coming up with logos and brochures. And you'll see in our social media slide I gave you, there's a logo we have that relates to a part of the storytelling that I designed off of, I think, a draft or an idea Jonelle threw out. So I won't tell you what it is. You'll see it when we get to that portion. But it's been fun for me to branch out in creative ways of storytelling that are just very untraditional or not common.
Yeah, definitely. Jonelle, what about you?
It was such an interesting experience for me to start working on this very DC centered piece when I wasn't in DC anymore. I'd been displaced because of the pandemic. So it was such a beautiful way to reinvigorate my love for a place that I lived for a decade and I kind of grew up in a way in my early adulthood. I was amazed by, you know, I'm an academic, I'm a researcher by nature, and I loved diving into old, you know, newspaper archives, old maps, thinking about the way different neighborhoods have changed so much. I mean, the whole city's gone topsy-turvy like 4 or 5 times over in terms of demographics and who lives there and what they do there. And I found all of that to just really make my brain squishy in a lovely and personally invigorating way. And I think, like Kylos, as a writer, I mean, you know this, like you kind of get in your forms, you like your way of telling stories, and you can't do that with this project. The story and the audience's experience comes first. So, you know, for example, I think we had in one of the early boxes in this season, we had the challenge of trying to convey a conversation between 2 siblings. And we could not for the life of us figure out how are we going to give this to the audience in a way that's not a video or audio. And then we decided, oh, right, they're passing notes to each other in a meeting when they can't talk out loud to each other. So it's a written object. So yeah, it's a constant puzzle, and I love that. It's always keeping me on my toes, and I think that's true for the audience too. It's always a surprise to them and to us.
I love that. It's so exciting that you're all a part of this project and get this opportunity to experience, you know, new forms of storytelling in a different way and be able to figure out how can we tell this story in a way it hasn't been told before? How can we tell this story, you know, in a different format? How can we bring this all together into a cohesive way? Like that to me is really great. And it flexes everyone's artistic muscle, you know, trying to get that together. So that is so exciting. And I'm sure you've all had a blast working on this project. So at this moment, I'd like to give an opportunity. So how can people, you know, follow, keep up with, you know, donate, do all of that? Actually, let me share that again. Let me optimize the sound. There we go. Beautiful. So Kylos, tell us.
Well, right there, these are the ways you can interact with Rorschach. We have a number of other projects too, besides this one. We just had a series of live readings and feedback for new plays. We will have this project ending in a live performance this summer. So you can see on the slide there, you can find us through our website. There's a very active Facebook group and Instagram, and we also have the Twitter there. And by the way, that logo, that is not a Rorschach logo. That's a logo representing a group of characters within our current story. So that mirror image RR with the two cats relates to our current storytelling plot, and we have little pins of that went out in some boxes, and I'm very proud of that design personally. So but yeah, that info right there is the best way to keep up with what Rorschach's doing and what we have coming in down the pipeline.
Awesome, beautiful. And we're gonna have the website link in the description below so that our audience can go ahead and check it out and keep up to date with everything that Rorschach Theater is doing. Any advice you have for young playwrights or young storytellers who, are just getting their start on the stage?
I'm just going to share advice that I got from one of my professors in college that has stuck with me. Kara Gabriel, maybe you're watching this. Thank you for this. She said once, solve someone else's problem. That is the solution to so many things in theater. If you're an actor, you are auditioning to solve someone's problem. They need someone great to fill this role, and you're going to be the person who solves their problem. If you are a playwright or a producer or a designer, you're helping the production. They have a problem and you're the one to solve it. And I think that, with psychogeographies, it's kind of a similar thing, right? We had this huge problem, the pandemic, and this was our solution to it. So if you approach your theater career that way, I think you're gonna go far.
Interestingly enough, as a film professor, I say something like that to all my film students.
Love that. Well, it's great advice. It is great advice. Thank you all for joining me today. It's been such a pleasure getting to chat with each of you. It's just a pleasure to get to hear about this fabulous project. And as someone who loves storytelling, I just want to say thank you for the work that you're doing in our community and for being able to tell so many different stories and in so many different ways. So thank you so much for that. Before I do end, I want to do my own personal plug because it's this Saturday and Sunday. Krylios is Leave the Door Open, my first stage play, A Twisted Tale of Fear, Fantasy, and Freedom. Come out. It's going to be a very, very great time. It is, it's warm. It has love. It deals with relationships. It's also action-packed. It's also a mystery. It's also a comedy. You're going to have a good time the entire time. That is the 14th and 15th of May, starting at 3 p.m. And we start off with a fabulous pre-show hosted by Racine Pendarvis. We have live music from Desiree Jordan and Cecily, as well as spoken word from poets Ray Monet and Miss Nightlife, and a special performance by yours truly. So you don't want to miss it. Come on to the Downtown Cultural Arts Center in Baltimore. Tickets are now on sale, and you can get those on Eventbrite or by going to the link on this image, bit.ly/It's Krylios Play. You can also find the tickets link at my link tree, It's Krylios, and you'll find out everything else that I have got going on, and you can follow me at It's Krylios. When it comes to Team Racine Productions, please follow Team Racine Productions at Team Racine on all forms of social media. Click around our YouTube channel and check out our other interviews, forums, vlogs, and more. And while you're there, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. But most of all, thank you for watching. Bye, everyone.